This side story is a special thank you for 200 subscribers. I hope you enjoy it. Side chapter, One Ring. It was the day after my 9th birthday. Kala was scurrying about getting me ready for my day. She was especially excited because today was a proving, and that meant that Frandlin would be coming by to bring me to the proving arena. Kayla had noticed how well Frandlin and I got along, and how punctual he was on proving days. She dressed me in a red gambeson with a gold necklace and bracelets. She also insisted I wore polished brass hair rings in my braids. Breakfast was served a little earlier than usual since Feren was working on gathering our proving statistics. We always went over them before leaving for a proving, so we needed to eat earlier than normal. This was going to be one of the last provings we needed to go to before I would make my final offers to warrior families. We also had to eat early because Frandlin had sent word that he wanted to go to the market district before the proving. After breakfast, Farron welcomed Ogren and they both selected the guards who would be escorting me out for the day. Typically, 10 guards were chosen for escort duty, while the rest stayed behind to train. Since most of my warriors had been chosen through provings, I insisted that they train daily and that only the winners over the past few days of mock battles would get the honor of escorting me. That meant that any time I was being escorted through the city, it was by the 10 strongest warriors in House Oradum. As we stepped out of the house, Frandlin and his men were waiting for us. Frandlin stepped forward and took my hand, placing a kiss on it. "Lady Oradum, it's a pleasure to see you again." I couldn't help but smile and blush lightly. Frandlin always treated me like a princess, a fairy tale princess, not an actual princess. "Thank you for joining me today, Lord Ivo." I bowed my head as Frandlin released my hand gently. "No, Lady Merida." Frandlin smiled and motioned for me to lead the way. "I should be thanking you. There's no one who will envy you for being with me. I'm the one who's going to be the envy of all of Orzammar for being by your side." I couldn't help but smile wider in response to the flattery. I started to head toward the market district. Frandlin moved to walk beside me. As we reached the doors that led from the Diamond Quarter to the market district, Frandlin moved to my side and hooked his arm with mine. The motion took me by surprise, and I looked at him with surprise. I couldn't bring myself to pull away, though. I could hear Farron's hum of disapproval behind me. I looked back at him with an expression that warned him to keep those thoughts to himself. But I don't think he saw it since Ogren had smacked the back of his head for his slip in protocol and etiquette. I decided that Ogren's chastisement was enough, so I faced forward again, flashing Frandlin a smile. We entered the market district, and the citizenry immediately noticed. To be fair, they noticed whenever the door to the Diamond District opened, but whenever it was me walking through the door, things tended to get a bit wild. There were wishes for a happy birthday, and offers of gifts which the guards took for me as we were swarmed with happy citizens as well-wishers. There were also a number of people who mentioned how cute of a couple Frandlin and I made. I did what I did best by schmoozing and meeting with individual citizens, listening to how I'd helped them and their families with the creation of the Surface Cast. I asked about what more I could do, taking an interest in their families' wares and goods, and promising to stop by later to see if I could use their services. This went on for nearly an hour, and Frandlin simply allowed me to engage with the people. He hummed softly after a bit. "It's amazing how you can connect with people so easily, Merida. The people seem to truly love you. I think it's more appropriate to say that they appreciate what I've done to improve their lives and the prospects for their families," I shrugged. Frandlin shook his head in denial. "No, my lady. That may have something to do with their reactions, but they do genuinely love you. Appreciation is one thing, but the way the streets essentially turn into a celebration when you arrive is something else entirely." I decided not to argue the point, and just offered a thankful expression. "If you say so." "I do," he chuckled and led me to a store that was closer to one of the larger mines. The store was carved into the stone, which meant it belonged to one of the more prominent mining families, and had likely been open for generations. As we entered, I couldn't help but allow a quiet "oh" as the sight of precious minerals, stone, and geodes filled my gaze. An elderly dwarf greeted us from behind the back counter. "Greetings, greetings. Welcome to Garen Minerals. How may I— oh my." The dwarf took a few moments longer than most to recognize us, but once he did, he moved around the counter and approached us with a deep bow. "My paragon, Lord Ivo." Your visit to our humble shop will be recorded and celebrated as a blessed day by my family." I quickly dipped into a curtsy in response. "You honor us with your words. Did you say your family name is Garin?" His smile brightened, as if me simply remembering the name of his shop was a blessing. "I did, my paragon." "Is your family descended from Paragon Tethras line?" I asked, with no small amount of curiosity and excitement. His old eyes seemed to sparkle with the question. "We are, my lady. Our ancestors were cousins to the king of Orzammar at the time, whose son was Paragon Tethras. I'm surprised you would recognize the name." "Our lady is an ardent study of familial lines and history," Frandlin bragged. "I'd wager she could recite Orzammar's history if we gave her the time." "Please, my lady, allow me to offer you a gift for visiting our shop and taking it upon yourself to remember our family in your studies." The dwarf bowed deeply. I let out a soft laugh. "I think you might want to introduce yourself first. I want to know who I should thank for any gift." The dwarf looked horrified that he'd forgotten his manners. "Oh, please forgive me, my lady. The excitement of seeing you and hearing your knowledge of my family overwhelmed me, and I forgot my manners. I am Croft Garin. My son Trent leads the family now, but I now manage the business on a day-to-day basis." "Well, Mr. Croft, I suppose it's your son's loss and your gain that he gave up the day-to-day management of the business," I joked with him. Croft laughed. "Oh, he won't believe me. He decided to go to the proving today, so I have no way of actually proving that you were here." I couldn't help but grin mischievously. "I think I can figure something out. You mentioned a gift?" Oh, yes," Croft gasped. "Please, my lady, follow me." "Actually, princess," Frandlin interrupted with a polite tone, "I would like to speak to Mr. Garin before we continue, if I may." I hummed curiously. "Of course, if you wish." I smiled at Croft and nodded to let him know that he should speak with Frandlin. Frandlin took Croft to the side for a few moments. While they spoke, I looked back at Farin and Ogren. "How are we doing on time? I don't want to miss the first match of the proving." "We have plenty of time, princess," Ogren responded. "Another half hour or so before we need to head to the arena." I hummed and looked at Farin. "Farin, I have a task for you." "I'm at your command, my paragon." Farin bowed his head. I explained what I needed Farin to do just before Frandlin called for my attention. "Princess, Mr. Garin is ready to give you your gift. Don't keep him waiting." I returned my attention to Croft and Frandlin and joined them after a moment. "Here, my lady." Croft reached out and offered me a mithril collar. It gleamed like moonlight and was clearly designed for nobility, with its dwarven-styled links and plates. It was far too big for me as small as I was now, but it would likely fit me well when I grew up. My eyes widened and I looked at Croft, shaking my head as I gasped, "Mr. Garin, this is too rich of an item to be given away simply as a gift." "No, my lady," Croft insisted. "This collar has been passed down in my family for generations. It would honor us if you would wear it one day and think of us." I took the collar and marveled at it. It was true that the make of it was older, but the intricacies of the sharp designs was masterful even by modern standards. I bowed my head humbly. "Thank you, Croft. Your generosity is peerless, and I will ensure that you will be among the first to see me wearing it." Croft bowed in return. "I have no doubt that the day you wear the collar will be a day celebrated by all of Orzammar, my lady." Frandlin had one of the Ivo guards take the collar back to House Oradum. "Now, I actually brought you here to get an idea of metals and gems that you like." Frandlin brought us back to purpose. "I was hoping we could look through their examples to see what piques your interest." "Oh, may I ask why?" I smirked in a playful manner. "I expect there will be a number of your birthdays we'll celebrate together," he explained casually. "I want to be able to offer you presents that I know you'll like." "A man who looks to the future," Croft approved. "Truly a young gentleman." We walked through the shop, and I pointed out some beautiful rose gold, silverite, and emeralds. All the while, Croft made notes and different suggestions on the subtle differences between the items I chose. By the time we left, Frandlin had a decisive list of my preferences. When we arrived at the proving arena, there was a large crowd getting prepared for the opening matches. People made room for us as Frandlin and I entered the arena. Nobles would always sit in the higher portion of the stands, but I had always wanted the bottom row. right in front, so I could see every movement and the subtleties of the combat. Frandlin had given in to my preferences. It was always something special for the commoners whenever I would sit with them. Eventually, the proving master appeared on the balcony and called for attention. Once everyone quieted down, he bellowed, "Lords and ladies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this glory proving." Today's proving is in celebration of the birth of the surface class, and to celebrate the birth of Paragon Merida Oradum. The crowd cheered in excitement. I am honored to announce that Paragon Oradum has joined us today and is seated in the first row, the proving master continued. The crowd's excitement grew louder. I stood and waved at everyone. The cheers of "Happy birthday," "We love you," and "Our future queen" came from the people. I'm sure we would all be grateful to hear a word from our beloved Paragon. The proving master looked down at me. "Would you do us the honor, my lady?" I waited for the crowd to die down, keeping my smile genuine and patient. I turned and called out, "It honors and humbles me that all of you have come today to celebrate what I believe is one of our greatest achievements in the surface caste." The crowd roared, and it took a minute before I could continue. "This is a day that we celebrate honor and the dwarven devotion to duty." I folded my hands into my lap as I gazed at the crowd. Everyone credits me with the success of the surface caste's creation, but in truth, I was only its advocate. The real success behind the surface caste are all you who worked tirelessly over the 2 years between its proposal and its implementation. You dedicated your every waking moment to its success by giving it your maximum effort, by rededicating yourselves to your crafts with a vigor that has brought dwarven society into this new age. The crowd was silent, eyes wide and smiles that seemed happy and humbled. "I know of someone who is here today," I continued, then raised my voice. "Trent Guerin, would you please come here?" A murmur rushed through the crowd as everyone looked around, settling in a particular direction where Trent stood from his seat. "Me, my lady? Are you Trent Guerin of Guerin Minerals?" I am, princess," he responded. I motioned to my side. "Then please, come here." He began to rush down the rows of stands, being pushed along by other dwarves, eager to see what I wanted with him. Trent bowed low when he finally managed to stand before me. "My Paragon, how may I serve you?" I moved my hand to Trent while looking at the crowd. "On a day we dedicate to the hard work of our people. This man left his business to his aging father so that he could attend a proving. This is the antithesis of this celebration." Trent's eyes widened, horrified at my accusations. Before he could protest or offer an apology, I pressed on. "Had he been dedicated to his duty, he would have been the one to greet me when my dear friend, Lord Ivo, took me to his family's shop to show him what metals and gemstones I prefer." I turned back to look at Trent, smiling. While choosing approving over his duties was a mistake, it gave me the opportunity to meet his father, Croft, who treated me like a treasure in the most personable and polite manner. I can only imagine that he passed these traits on to his son, and that they were passed to him from generations before him. These traits are some of the greatest we can expect from a dwarf. I placed my hand on Trent's shoulder, directing my gaze at him, while my words were for everyone. It is my hope that, in the future, we can remember why we celebrate this day and how we should celebrate it, with hard work and finding ways to rededicate ourselves to our craft and our goals. Trent nodded silently, firmly, before I turned and opened my arms toward the arena. "Now let us enjoy the hard work and dedication of some of Orzamar's greatest warriors in today's glory proving." The crowd leapt from their seats with a roar. The proving was one of the fiercest in memory. Frandlin had surprised me by having each contestant give me a flower before each match. By the end of the proving, I had a whole bouquet. Frandlin walked me home afterwards and stayed for dinner. We talked well into the night about the contestants and poured over the information Farron and I wrote down through the matches. When he finally took his leave, Frandlin promised me that he would be going back to Guerin Minerals to have some jewelry commissioned for me. In the end, he only ever gave me one ring.